In this video, I'll be showing you how to build an AI-powered email assistant that can watch for all new incoming mail from Gmail or Outlook, let's say, and tag it based on what category it falls into. And if it's a category that needs a response, for example, if it's urgent, it'll automatically create a draft based on how you would normally respond to emails and put that draft right in your inbox, ready to send or modify to whoever's sending you email that's urgent. So let's just do an example here. Let's just do quick follow-up. And I'll just say something like, are you still available to build that AI chatbot, right? Something urgent you'd want to respond to quickly, like, a sales conversation. So I'll just wait for this to get tagged. This will pull the inbox, pull it every single minute. So this might happen in a few seconds or, up to 60 seconds. And after it recognizes that this is actually an important email, it's going to create a draft. And you can do a whole lot more with this system. For example, if you had a client database, let's say it's in Notion or ClickUp or Google Sheets, you could mark any emails coming from clients and reference that Google Sheet and then do all kinds of separate things with it. So I have a pretty basic system just for this demo, but let's just check in and see if this gets tagged. Yep, it got tagged urgent, and then it created the draft. Hey, Bennett, yeah, I'm still available to build the AI chatbot. We'll find a time to discuss the details and next steps. So obviously I wouldn't probably send this exact email, but I can kind of modify it. And it makes my email checking every day much easier because I can just go into urgent and I can find all the urgent stuff. As you can see, I've done a few tests. It'll also parse out anything that's a notification, for example, a payment in Stripe or any kind of newsletters. It'll pull those out into their own separate tags. So when you're going through your inbox, you wouldn't just check inbox anymore. You would just check urgent, right? Or other, maybe if it's not sure what to qualify the email as. So I'll show you how to build this system from A to Z. We're going to be using n8n. That's a tool kind of like Make or Zapier, but it's just a little bit more advanced and lets you do cool stuff like this text classifier. And it's just better for building agents such as this one. So I'll see you in part one. All right, so step one, we're going to open up a blank n8n workflow and then have your email inbox open as well. We're going to add a few labels to this that we want to route email into. So for me, I have a very basic setup. If it's human written, like it requires a response, or a newsletter or notification. So we'll just route things to these three. I'll probably add one more for other. And this other, I'll just color it. Let's just do a blue. Cool. So I got my tags set up here, my labels in Gmail. What I'll do now is add a trigger step to this workflow. This will be a app event. We'll choose Gmail. And we'll do on message received for the trigger. This is the most frustrating part, I think, of this whole thing is getting this credential from Google Cloud. So we'll just make a new credential here. And I've got this guide on the right. So I'm going to click into Cloud Console API and Services. I'll sign into the same account I'm using for my email. So I'll use this one here. We'll do our password. So I have an account already in this, but you might have to just create the account. And once you're in here, we'll make a new project. So I'll do new project right there. I'll create it. Cool. So this will create the project. I'll wait for this to be done. I'll select this. And now next step is going to be to type in here. It's going to be Gmail. We'll see this API pop up. What I'll do now is enable this. Awesome. So now I'll do create credentials on the right. You might get this fail to load. Just refresh the page a few times. I'll hit retry. Wow, really giving me a tough time when I'm making a video. I'm not sure why it's giving me all this. Let me go back to my project. So the app I'm going to be using is the Gmail API. We're going to use user data. I'll click next. You can name this whatever you want to. The support email, just choose the email. We can skip this and we'll put our email in again here. I'll save and continue. And for scopes, I pretty much just add them all to make it easy. You could go in here and select which ones you need, but I'll just do all of them. And then I'll save and continue. So for this OAuth client ID, we're going to use web application. The name doesn't matter, but then this authorized redirect URL, we're going to take this from n8n and plug that right in. So I'll have to log in again here. ben@boldslate.org. Okay. We'll do it again. User data. The scope's already in. I'll save and continue. Web application. And then redirect URL. We're going to add our URL right there. I'll do create. So I've gotten the client ID, but I need more than that. So I'm going to go to, I'll do done. And then I'm going to go to credentials. Click into this credentials right here. And now you can see the client ID and the client secret. We're going to copy and paste both of those right into here. And these should be pretty much free depending on your usage. I think they don't really charge you anything if you're under a certain threshold. Let me just make sure I put that in the right spot here. Client secret and then client ID. Cool. So I'll do sign in with Google. Let me just pull that up. Cool. So I will sign in with that same account. I'll do allow. And the account is now connected. We've done the hard part. So now what I can do is I can test the event. No, nothing found yet because we haven't put any new emails in. So I'll turn off simplify here. And then for filters, I'm going to do include drafts. Just keep that off. And then I think that is it. Let's see if there's anything else. No, that should be good. So we can just keep that right there. I'll save this for now. I'm going to do a little test email in my inbox. I'll just send this to myself and I'll say, we'll just make this follow up. Still good to just something basic. Cool. So I will go back into my workflow and I'll test this. So we got the email received. As you can see, hey, Ben, still good to work on that project. Great. Cool. So that's the first step. The second step will be advanced AI step. We're going to use this text classifier to classify all the emails to fit into certain categories. So for the text to classify, I'm going to use both the subject of the email and the email body itself. So I have this Gmail trigger open here from the last email we just sent. I'll drag in the subject. I'll just do an enter right there, and then I'll use the text as well right below it. So now I'm going to actually choose the categories to filter these off into. This will use AI to actually determine whether the email should be, in whatever category you select. So I can do a category for human. Human. And I'll say description is like the instructions that it must meet, or the criteria it must meet to be a human labeled email. So I can say if the email requires a response, and that might be too strict. I can say if the email, like it is something that should be responded to, not a newsletter, spam, or a notification. Okay, cool. So I'll add another category. This will be newsletter. So I'll say if the email looks like a newsletter. Pretty basic instructions. You can get more granular with this if you want to. This one will be notification. I'll say if the email looks like an automated notification. Cool. So we've got those done. I can also have another category here and say if the email does not fit into the above categories. Cool. So options, I'm going to have this off because I want it to just route through one of them, not having multiple tags added to an email. And then when no clear match, I will have it go to, I guess it's kind of the same thing as the other, so that's fine. I'll just remove this one. And that should be good. I'll also add this system prompt template. I probably won't change much of this. I'll just keep it as is. That should be fine there. So I have this set up, and now we have some routers on this. So now I can route things off depending on what this classifies the email as. So my router steps are going to be tagging the email a certain tag, right? So let me pause and come back. All right, cool. So to actually get the data in through this text classifier, I'm going to run this. Oh, I forgot to add the ChatGPT model. Let me go in and add OpenAI. I'm going to use the account I already have on here. You can create a new credential, get the API key from OpenAI and add it in. I'll use the GPT-4o mini model here, and then I just leave it blank on the options. Go back to Canvas. Now what I'll do is I'll just run this, and it should bring that email in and then classify it. So as you can see, that last email we had in was this follow-up, hey, are we still good to meet on that project? So this is a human email. And what I'll do is I'll drag this up, action in an app, I'll do Gmail, and then I'm going to add a label to a message. And this will be the same account. I don't have to do this again. It's already there. The resource is message. The operation is add label. For the message ID, I'm going to take this ID from the text classifier and just throw that right in there. And now for this label name, I'm going to go in and find the label that we just made in the first step, human, right there. So I have this label done. I'll test this step, and now you can see that this email was actually labeled as human right there, right? So it looks good. Let's go back over. So what I'll do now is I'm going to duplicate this for all of the other ones. So this will be for the newsletter, and I will change this tag to be newsletter. Same thing for the other ones. I'll duplicate these, drag this one over. This will be for notifications, and the next one will be for other. So I'll duplicate this as well, and this will be for other. Cool. Excuse me. Okay. We're back in. These should all be configured properly now. So I'll save this. And what I'll do is I'll just send an email that looks like a newsletter, and I'll just check to see if it is tagging stuff correctly. So let me put in an email to myself. I'll just say newsletter. Make it very easy for it to detect. And I'll say, welcome to the email. This week, we are talking about frogs. Cool. So what I'll do now is I will test this workflow with the latest email. It should classify as newsletter. As you can see, it just did. So it's working nicely. If I have a notification, it should tag as notification, etc. I'm not going to really use much. I'm not going to really do much to these tags for newsletter, notification, or other. They're kind of just going to be tagged there. I'm not going to respond to those emails. Only the ones that are human or that require a response. So what I'll do next is I'm going to create an OpenAI module in Advanced AI. I'll use OpenAI there, and I will message a model. Connect the same account, it's already in there. Resource will be text. We're gonna write an email. So I'll message a model. The model I'll choose is gonna be GPT-4o mini, just to save on those credits. Let me execute previous node, see if we can get an email in here. It looks like not, so I'm gonna have to send another email in to get the data to flow up to this human one. So let me save. So I'll just resend an email to myself. I'll just say, follow up. Hey Bennett, just checking in. Still good to meet about that project. Cool. And I'll go back and I'll do test workflow. We should go up to human now. And now we have the information ready to go in our OpenAI inputs. So for this, I'm going to give this a prompt on how to actually respond to the emails. And I'm going to give it some training as well on how to respond to emails properly. So to do this, the way I prefer is I like to give it a few examples of emails that come in and then some example responses on just to train this in the context window of the AI model. So the first will be a prompt. I'm going to say something like, you are an assistant that creates email responses for me. You should respond in a friendly, professional, say, but not, I'll just say overly so. And I'll also say, don't include any subject lines or any signatures in the email. Try to reference the user, the sender's name in the first line with hello. Okay, so that's our first kind of system prompt in a way, our user prompt. The next thing I'm going to do is add a bunch of these messages, and you'll see why in a second. I'm going to add, I think that should be enough there. What I'm going to do now is called user assistant pairing. So I'm going to give it some example emails that I'll create and then I'll give it some outputs that I'll also create. So it's kind of like supervised learning in a way. I'm using that term loosely, but I'm going to give it some user prompts, some emails that come in as sample, and then some assistant responses as sample as well. I'll do this for 3 sets. So that's set 1. This will be set 2. This will be set 3. And then finally, the last message will be the actual email that we're processing and creating a draft to. So I can remove this last one. To help with this, I'm going to use ChatGPT. So let me just get ChatGPT open. And I will have this with this kind of prompt. I'll say, we are writing user assistant context training for assistant that responds to email in a friendly, professional, yet not overdone way. I want 3 example emails. Should be related to business and should come from a human, personalized emails, not newsletter emails, of course. And then say, create a sample response to each one. Don't include any email signatures or the subject lines. Cool. So that should do its magic. It'll give us some examples to feed in so that when it actually does create our response, it's trained pretty well. So these are not the greatest. They're a little bit long. Let's say these, say we want it to be more like personal emails. Hey, wanted to follow up, XYZ, or hey, can you change this to our site, etc. Stuff like that. Cool, that's perfect, I think. Yeah, I want to make these a little bit shorter. So I'll say make responses a bit less buttoned up, a bit shorter. And yeah, that should be good. Yeah, so we're getting a little bit more personality in this. I'll say, give me a little less enthusiastic, fake seeming. So this is, you want to dial this in because this will influence how all of the drafts come through. Let me just do one more prompt. You can skip ahead in the video if you want, but I'll say a more middle ground between professional and casual. Let's just say like, yeah, that's good. Spend a lot of time on this, and I think it's worth it because it'll make your life a lot easier having an email that sounds like you every single time. But I'll just add these in for the sake of getting on with the video. So I'm going to go in to my user prompt, my second user prompt now, and I'm going to feed in those examples. So this will be just kind of feeding in the samples. Now this assistant prompt here will be the response. So I'll do that. We'll do this again for email 2. So set 1 is complete. Now we're on set 2. So my recommendation is if you have some more time than I do, because I'm making this video, you should actually respond to the sample emails yourself, like as you would normally respond to emails. So the closer it gets to you, the less time you'll have to spend writing stuff. So now for this final user prompt, it should end on a user prompt. This is going to actually feed in the real details of the email that we are trying to get a draft for. So I will go in and I'll include the name of the sender, which will be, let's see, from. Yeah, so this from email, this from thing will include the sender's name, which is crucial. And then I'll say, let's include the subject. And finally, let's include the text of the email. So that will be, let's see, right here. Cool. And let's see, anything else? Simplify output is fine. Any options we need to add? I think we're good. I'll test this step. And this should give us the output from the email that said, hey, Bennett, just checking in. Are we still good to meet about that project? The draft it will create for us will say, hey, Bennett, thanks for reaching out. I'm still good to meet. Let me know what time works best for you, and we can set up time to meet, basically. So yeah, that's pretty good. I like that response. This part is done now. I'm going to now create a draft in email. So another Gmail module. And what I'll do is I will say, create a draft. Resources draft, operation is create. The subject will just be like response. I'll go back to my Gmail trigger and I'll pull this subject from this. So this will just say subject there. Let me see, is that the best value to add? Yeah, I think that works. It won't actually matter. I'll show you why. So message will be what we got from the OpenAI module. This will be the content here. And then I'm going to also do something cool. I'm going to do thread ID. So this will make the draft like a reply to that previous email. If you don't add this step in, it'll just create the email as a standalone email, not as a response. So this thread ID, I'm going to take from the text classifier as the thread ID here. That's the cleanest version I've found. And then finally, I'm going to do to email. This is the email that we're going to send the email to, the draft. So this will be just responding to the previous sender. So I'll go back to the Gmail trigger and I'll copy this from, let's see, so from value ben@boldslate.org. Perfect. Yeah, looks good. So I'll do test step. And now you can see that we have that as a draft now. If I go back into my email, I should see that we have a draft on that email. And there we go. So this says, hey, Bennett, thanks for reaching out. I'm still good to meet. Just as we saw in the previous prompt, which is fantastic. I think there's one more thing I can do, which is adding the, I want to add the signature in. I'm not sure if I am able to do that from here. Maybe not. Maybe it was a different module I was using in a different workflow. But I think that's going to be good. So this whole thing is complete now. So we have to just save it, turn this thing on, and now we can just test it. So this will pull the inbox every single minute. So if I send something now, it might take a second, but let's try it. I'll say newsletter. We'll test newsletter. I'll say, thank you for subscribing to the newsletter. This episode, we are discussing Paris. Cool. Let's see what that does. So this will take a second to tag it, up to a minute. So we will wait on this. But, you know, this is kind of just the foundation of this. So as I said before, you could really do a whole lot more with this. You could have this, you know, giving you a notification in Slack to make it even easier to know when an email has come in that you should be responding to. Let's just wait on this. Boom. Okay. So newsletter, that's tagged correctly. Let's try one more. That is going to be notification, right? So I'll say Stripe payment received. Thank you for your order. Your order has been shipped. Something like that. This should be tagged as a notification. So we'll see if that works. Probably take a minute or so. But my thoughts on this, I mean, you could have way more tags than this. You could also use more than one trigger right here. You could have like several inboxes. So imagine the entire company's email inbox is synced to this, and it just allows you to have a really streamlined company email organization. So if I go back, let's see if this got tagged. Boom, notifications, perfect. As you can see, no replies have been sent to these or drafts have been created yet, which is great. So now I'll do one more that's just going to be testing maybe like a friend email. So let's say, let's catch up. Hey, wanted to see. So this is kind of not a great system I have on labels because human and other are kind of not quite mutually exclusive. So the best way to do this would be like business and maybe personal or other. But let's see what this tag does. I think it'll probably do human and then give us a draft to respond with. Yeah, so human, and it gave us a draft. Great to hear from you. I'm in town. Would love to catch up. Let me know when you're free. So great. Yeah, this whole thing is working great. There shouldn't be any problems. And if you want to skip building this whole thing out, I actually have a blueprint in my school group. It's free to join. The link is in the YouTube description below. And you can just go in there and you can find this blueprint and import it in. You don't have to build this from scratch. Plus, I have a bunch of other stuff in there that's pretty cool to build as well. So hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you want more stuff like this, and join the school group if you want to get access to all the blueprints and more of the builds that I'm doing. So hope you enjoyed.